Why does this want to do this right now? Really bad timing. Looks like I have bangs. Okay, why do I have a bang right now? Hold on. Okay. Anyway, babe. Okay, well, disregard if I have a little bang in the front at any point of this video. But, welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Tangle Talk. Right now. This is crazy. I feel like I've been like planning this out and like doing so much for this podcast, and the fact that I'm finally filming it now is like crazy to me. Yeah, so let me introduce myself for the people who don't recognize my voice or recognize me if you are watching. But I'm Peyton, I am 22 and I currently go to NC State. I graduated this past May, but I play softball and this is my 5th year of softball, so getting to go to school for a little bit more. But I've just been making some content for the past like 4 years. I went to the University of Georgia for 3 years, and while I was there after my freshman year, it like got announced by the NCAA that everyone, like all the athletes, were going to be able to start making money off their name, image, and likeness, which a lot of people are very familiar with it with NIL. And after that got announced, I was like, I think I like want to try to do this. Like, I feel like it will be a really cool opportunity. So I started off with kind of just like posting random content. I've always really enjoyed making content and like posting on Instagram. I even have like a couple YouTube videos. You can't find them, I've taken them down, but of like vlogs when I was younger, like of like my family going on trips, and we traveled a lot with travel ball growing up with softball, so I was always filming, so it was definitely something I was always like super passionate about. So I was like, let me see if I can like actually make this into something, because I do really enjoy it and I like taking pictures, I like videoing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's always been kind of part of me. And then I think with like the NIL thing coming out after my freshman year, I was like, let's just put 2 and 2 together and make more content and see if maybe I can get some deals out of it. So that's kind of how I started creating content, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, and kind of what Tangle Talk is going to be about, because you're probably wondering, what in the world is Tangle Talk? What is she doing? Who is this girl? All kinds of questions, and I'm going to answer all of those in today's episode. Like I said, I play softball at NC State. This is my 2nd year at NC State. I played at Georgia for 3. I played for 2. I got hurt my junior year. I had labrum surgery in my shoulder. So I redshirted my junior year, and then I transferred going into my senior year. And I played the whole fall at NC State, and like I was fine. I was feeling good. And then one day in January, when I was home for like Christmas and New Year's break, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I can't walk. Like, I was like, what's happening? Like, I was fine. Literally before that day, completely fine. I've always had like back problems growing up, but like it was nothing that I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be like a big issue one day. But long story short, woke up, couldn't walk. I texted my athletic trainer and I was like, Logan, like we have a problem, like I can't walk. And so then my coach ended up texting me and she was like, I heard you're broken, or something along those lines. And I was like, yeah, about that. So long story short, again, it was fine, whatever. I had back surgery at the end of January of this year of 2024. And so that caused me to have to redshirt again. So now I've had basically 2 back-to-back seasons that I didn't play, which I played in the fall, but that's kind of just like practicing, kind of like for actual season in the spring. So I had my 2 back-to-back years of redshirting, which now gives me the opportunity to play this year for a 5th year, even though I graduated this past May, and then next year too. So I'll have a 6th year. So that's kind of up in the air on what's happening with that, just because obviously with back surgery and stuff, it's kind of like, I feel like every day I'm like, is today gonna be a good day? Is today gonna be a bad day? So definitely taking it day by day, but we'll see. So that's where I'm at with my life. I just turned 22 this past September, like a couple months ago. Last month, it's October. Last month, turned 22. graduated in May, still playing softball, and yeah, so life's been good. And so now you're probably wondering, okay, what's Tangle Talk? So if you have been following me for a little bit, or even you don't know me, I'm gonna explain. Like I was saying, I have posted a lot of content over the past 4 years since my freshman year. And so this fall I got accepted into like a meta program by Instagram and the NCAA. They're doing like a combined deal for 50 female student athletes, and it's called the NIL Empower program. And it's just giving us 50 women like the ability to learn more about social media and just kind of like just empower other female athletes to start creating content and see like the opportunities that are out there for female athletes. So it's definitely been really cool. And one of the things they were talking about was doing like a series on your page. And over the past 4 years, I've posted a lot of like softball hair, game day hair, quick and easy hairstyles. That's kind of been like my niche for the longest time. So when Meta announced that they wanted us to do like a series or like some kind of podcast, not necessarily a podcast, they're like, let's do a series. And a lot of the other women from last year did podcasts like on their Instagram and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna do a podcast because I've done TikTok, I've done Instagram, I've done all the things, and I've always kind of wanted to like vlog and get into YouTube, but I never really did. And I definitely wanted to when I was younger, but like many of us, we're kind of just scared to. So I was like, this is my time to do it. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it now. So that's how I decided that I'm gonna start a podcast, and this YouTube series is all thanks to Meta and this opportunity that they gave me this fall. So thanks to Meta, now you guys get Tangle Talk. So with me always posting hair content, I was like, how can I mix in that into like a podcast? Because I didn't want to just do like a typical podcast where people come on, I ask them questions, whatever. I feel like that just doesn't really like fit me, but I still wanted to do that, but then like make it my own. So from now on, episode 2 moving on, we will always have a guest with us, either college athletes, professional athletes, influencers, business owners, honestly anyone you can think of that has a really cool story or something they're super passionate about, or just like super fun people. I want everybody on. So we're gonna have a guest each episode, and I'm gonna be braiding hair while we talk about whatever we're gonna talk about that like for that episode. It's kind of the rundown of the podcast and kind of how I got like the inspo on the name and like how I started this podcast, because honestly, if it weren't for Meta to like giving us that little push, I probably wouldn't have like started this podcast. And it's definitely something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So if you need a sign, because I definitely needed a sign, like let's do it, like take another step like in this social media journey that I'm on, I guess you would say. It was from Meta. So if you feel like you need a little push or a little inspo or a sign that you need to take the next step, definitely do it, because I feel like even if this podcast like totally flops and like I don't get like all these views or whatever, I feel like I'm still gonna be like filled like in myself, because I knew that I like did something out of my comfort zone, and it's been something like I wanted to do for a real long time. So I know that I'm gonna be super satisfied. And if the views come, if all that stuff comes, that's honestly a bonus, because I know with like my guests, I'm gonna hear some really awesome things, be motivated by some people, and just hear some like cool stories and meet new people that I probably would have never talked to before. So I'm super excited, so I hope you guys are excited too. Okay, so now that I've blabbed a little bit about me, I feel like I'm all over the place. I'm definitely gonna have to like lock in when it comes to that. Like I feel like I can just talk about something for a couple minutes and then I'm like, oh wait, let me talk about that now. So I gotta like reel it back in and not be all over the place, because I know I am, because I do that when I'm filming like my TikTok videos too, but then like I can just edit it out because it's only like 60 seconds. But now that I get to talk to you guys for like an hour, I'm gonna have to lock it in so I'm not all over the place and like confuse people, because I know I will, because I just get on a rant and I go crazy. So yeah, so I asked on my Instagram if anybody had any questions about like starting on social media, starting NIL, or like just kind of how to like get into it, or like how I got into it, or any tips. So I'm gonna answer some questions about that now. And yeah, we're just gonna chat a little bit about how to start, if you are on social media, if you're already posting, other kind of little tips and stuff. So that's what we're gonna talk about. Like I said earlier, I got into the NIL space, I think it was the summer after my freshman year when I was at Georgia. And for me, like that was like my push to start was for NIL, which like I said, I always have liked creating content, but I guess I just needed that push to like, let's do something. Like, again, like I needed a sign or like a push to just take another step in it, rather than just like creating like Instagram posts. So I guess if you get anything out of this podcast, it's definitely just to like take the next step, because you don't know what it's going to come from that. Like if I never started posting my freshman year because one, I was embarrassed, or two, I didn't know like how to start, or all the things that people like make excuses to not start posting on social media. If I were to let like something like that like hold me back from posting, I wouldn't be making this right now, and I wouldn't like be doing the things I'm doing. And who knows if I was ever going to continue to like film and vlog and do all that stuff. And I feel like now that I have so many experiences like on my social media that I can like look back on. Because for example, my family went on like this week-long trip to California this summer, and we just did so much in the span of a week, and I vlogged every single day of like stuff we did. And looking back, I'm like, I would have never remembered that we went to that restaurant, or we did that, or whatever. So like on the other side of it, outside of just filming like for social media, like for whatever, like I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm filming for the views, for the money, whatever. I feel like that's not gonna like drive you for a really long time. Like you have to find like, I guess your why. We say that a lot with softball, like what's your why? I'm like, why you're playing, why you're doing this. I feel like you have to do the same thing for social media, because if you're doing it for money and views and whatever, you're gonna get burnt out, and it's just not gonna be like genuine content, I feel like. So finding your why is definitely like my biggest tip. And for me, that was definitely like remembering little things I've done like throughout college. I feel like that was like something that I really wanted to like document and just kind of remember, because I've always been that kind of person that I'm like, I need to take a picture, I need to take a video, because one, I'm not gonna remember, because my memory is absolutely terrible. So that's kind of part of it too. I'm like, okay, I've always been a picture taker because I literally have a terrible memory. So I guess that was like partially my why, is to like just remember things. But it definitely was like my freshman year, I was like, I like don't want to forget, like these are supposed to be the best 4 years, now 5 or 6 years of my life. So I don't want to like forget it. And I want to like, I also don't want to like look back and regret I did it differently. And I definitely know I would have regretted it if I didn't like go this route, if that makes sense, like the social media route and the content creating route, because it definitely was like always something that was super important to me. So yeah, don't have any regrets, just do it. It's not that deep, I promise. Literally start recording, edit, post, be done. Don't overthink it. It's really not like the end of the world. Like if you enjoy it and you enjoy filming and you enjoy looking back on all the things you're doing, literally just do it, because it's your life. You have to remember that. Like everything else we do is your life at the end of the day, and you can't like let outside factors affect you and your decisions on like things you want to do. So yeah, just live with no regrets. And if you want to do it, that's my biggest tip. Literally just start. Okay, so back to a couple questions y'all were asking me. Let's see. Okay, so like one of the main questions I got was, how do you start getting PR and like brand deals? And for me personally, I feel like I was lucky enough that I started doing this like right when the NIL like aspect came about. So that definitely helped me like as an athlete, because like all these companies like wanted to like just jump on top of it and like want to get athletes to do deals with. So I feel like I was like super lucky to be like in that stage of my life. Like after my freshman year, I experienced a whole year like without it, and then it came out that summer, and then I was like, I want to do this. Like literally the day it came out, I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna dive like headfirst into it, and this is what I want to do, and I want to like spend a lot of my time in like while I am in college, so I can build this up and it like be part of me. So I was super fortunate that that was the case. So I feel like in the beginning for me, it was a little bit easier to get deals because like brands were like so eager to find athletes to give deals to, if that makes sense. But if you're not an athlete, and if you are an athlete now, because that time was totally different than if you're starting now, because NIL's been around for almost 4 years now. So the time is different compared to when it was for me, but I'm not saying that it was like, here's a brand deal, here's a brand deal. Honestly, a lot for me in the beginning was just PR and like here's product, post a picture. Like, no, I don't think I got my first like paid collab probably like a year in, if I'm being completely honest. So especially in the beginning, I feel like you can't get super like wrapped up in the paid part. Like again, going back to like your why and understanding why you're doing it, and honestly just having fun with it, because the first bit of like you posting is honestly you learning like what you want your content to be, what audience you're trying to reach, what message are you trying to like portray to your followers. Like if you're trying to like promote like confidence, or if you're an athlete like me and you want to post like different like drills and stuff for athletes to do, like your target audience is going to be different, and you kind of have to figure out like who you want your target audience to be, because it can be very different depending on like the stuff you post. Obviously, like for me, I feel like a lot of my target audience is like younger athletes and like moms and stuff, and like people who are braiding hair often. If like, say, I'm trying to think of like something totally different. I don't know. So my audience would be like younger athletes or moms or stuff like that. So if, say, your topic is obviously completely different than mine, your audience is going to be very different. So you have to target your videos like towards those sorts of people. So for me, when I was thinking, okay, younger athletes are going to see my videos, one, since I am an athlete and I want like younger athletes to like look up to me and appreciate my videos, let's not have any cuss words in my videos. Let's not like do anything that's inappropriate, which I feel like you shouldn't be doing that on social media anyway, but that's besides the point. But for me, it was like little stuff like that. I was like, okay, this is like the mom showing their kids watching me, like the mom showing their kids me braiding my hair is gonna appreciate that I don't have like crazy nonsense in my videos, and that their kids could look up to me. And I know that's like what I kind of like asked for when I was like starting to post like softball hair, that like younger athletes were gonna like watch my stuff, and I was completely fine with that. And it's honestly something I wanted to do, because I feel like growing up for me, which social media was totally different growing up like compared to now, because I feel like, yes, there was like influencers and stuff at the time, but I feel like me, I didn't really have any like influencers that like were doing the same things as me. Like I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't think of any that I watched now at the moment, but like none of them were like athletes or anything like that. So I was like, I want to be that person that younger athletes can look up to. And even though I'm posting hair content, it's not like I'm posting like this crazy like motivational things every week for them to watch. Like it's still like, oh, this girl's playing softball, I want to be like her, I want to do my hair like her. It's just like little stuff like that, like finding your target audience, finding what message you want to like portray to people on social media, and just run with it. But also be like very mindful on who's watching your videos and like what you're putting out there, because you don't want to put something on social media that's like not you at all, and then it just like kind of like your content like clashes together, because you're like, okay, you just posted this, but it doesn't relate to like your next post. Say for me, say I posted a video of me like lip sync a song and like acting crazy and I'm cussing in it, and then the next video is me like trying to be all like motivational and like trying to like get younger children, younger athletes to like look up to me. I feel like those just like don't relate. So you have to find your target audience, one. Two, like understand what message you're putting out there to people, and I guess just being aware of the type of content you're putting out, because it definitely can get hard to not fall into the trap of always posting like trending stuff. And you definitely need to post like trending. If you want to do like a trending dance or something, you can do that, but it's not like it needs to be every single thing is like just the trend. Like you want your page to be personal to you. So yeah, so for me, like I was always posting hair content, and I would find inspiration from other people, and I would use trending audios and stuff like that. And like the one recent one I did, like a trending one, was like, you know, you have 30 minutes, like that sound on TikTok. And I used that, like, and it was hair related. So it's like you can use trending audios and like just trends and relate them back to like your niche and your type of content you use. I feel like that's like really important too, because especially in the beginning, I feel like it's kind of hard to like always post like authentic type stuff. Like you definitely need to get inspiration from like trending stuff, but I feel like you also have to mix in stuff that's personal to you outside of just trends. But that's just me, because I know some people just do a lot of trend stuff and they do really good with that, but for me, I just feel like I haven't been the person that's always just been like on top of the trends. But definitely use trending sounds, definitely do trends, but make them personal to you, not just like something you saw on someone else's page and you're like recreating it, because that's just not authentic, and people will catch you if you are copying their stuff. So I've seen it. I personally haven't like experienced people copying my stuff, and I haven't copied other people's stuff, but I've seen people like posting on TikTok and they're like, oh, this creator's like mimicking basically everything I'm doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine if like I posted, oh, here's how to do a slick back, and then someone's posting, here's how to do a slick back, and then the next day I'm like, oh, here's how to do a dragon braid, and then they do it, and I'm like, that would be crazy. So don't do that. I don't know what that question was. What did I just talk about? This is what I'm saying. I'm just going on a rant. What were we talking about? Oh my gosh, I literally was talking about reaching out for brands through Instagram. Wasn't I? Oh no, we were talking about brand deals. Oh my gosh, see, this is why I need a guest so they can keep me on track of what I'm talking about, because I'm just going on a rant. Also, first episode, you just gotta get it all out. But back to the original question before I started ranting about everything. Don't get wrapped up in the brand deals, because I know it can get super hard and like wanting to make money, but I think I mentioned it, but like finding your why and sticking with that, especially in the beginning, because I feel like that time you can kind of get like really discouraged if you're not seeing like crazy amount of views, or if like brands aren't reaching back out to you, or if they're just like straight up turning you down for deals. It can get really discouraging, because I went through a time, and even now, like now that I'm trying to incorporate like new content outside of hair, because for me, I'm like, say this May I'm done with softball, which I can play another year, so even if that, I have a year and a half left of softball. So eventually I'm not going to be like this athlete that like people look to as much as other athletes, because once you're a retired athlete, you're kind of pushed away a little bit. But for me, I'm like, I need to start mixing in like new content, and my views have been awful. If you go on my TikTok right now, which again, yes, it's a little discouraging, so I'm like, dang, I feel like I was doing so good, and I built up my TikTok and I built up my like following, and everyone was being like super engaged, and now it's like basically nothing. So I totally get it, how it can be like very discouraging when like you don't see those views, but especially in the beginning, you kind of just have to push through it, because eventually it will come. And that's when I'm like having to restart again, because I like built it up super good, and then now I'm just like down back to the bottom. So like I've done it, I've built it up, so now it's like I kind of have to restart that process. So I get how it can feel like super discouraging when you are trying to like post a lot of content and you're trying to be authentic and you're sticking to your why. But at the end of the day, it does kind of stink like when you're not getting the views and brands aren't reaching back out and those things. So, but I feel like that's with anything in life. Like you're gonna have things that are like super discouraging when you're working super hard. So you kind of have to relate it to like something else. Like me with athletics, like if like relating it to this in a way, very different things, but relating it to this past year when I worked hard all fall and then I had like a random injury in January that was going to put me out for my second season in a row. You kind of have to remember like your why. Like why, like I'm not just playing softball just to be like during season. Like I've done this my whole life, which again, like playing during season and like your views and brand deals, I feel like that's what like I'm trying to relate right now. Like yes, you want to play, you want to do great, you want to hit home runs, you want to do whatever that you're wanting to do. That's all outcome based. So you have to remember like why you're playing it, and like all your stuff can't be based on outcomes. So like as an athlete, I'm relating the views and the brand deals and everything to my outcomes on the field. And as an athlete, I feel like we all hear that like we're not based on our outcomes. And I feel like it can get super hard not to, because like you're supposed to do good and you're supposed to have these outcomes and you're supposed to get the views and you're supposed to get the brand deals. So you have to figure out why you're doing it, what's going to fill you up and like make you feel like you're doing a really good job outside of like the views and the brand deals and the hits and the home runs, because it's not always going to be there. And for me, like if I started posting all this new content and I see all my like views are down and I just go back to hair videos 24/7, then I'm just like defeating the whole purpose of me trying to mix in new content. Like I wanted to mix in new content for a reason. So if I just give that up, then I'm like basically going back on like what I like wanted to do in the first place, if that makes sense. So just stick to it. I know it's super hard, especially in the beginning, not getting the views, not getting all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all going to come. The more you work, it's just like anything else in life. The more you work at it and the more you like perfect it and you get better at editing, better at like your song choices, better at picking what trends you want to do, how to like make your stuff very personal to you, all of it's going to get so much easier and it's all going to pay off. So definitely just have to stick through it, and the views, the brand deals and all that stuff will definitely come. So just don't get too wrapped up in it. Definitely will get burnout if that's all you're focusing on is just like brand deals and stuff. Okay, going off the brand deal question, I got another question on like how to reach out to companies in the first place. And I definitely had a hard time with this in the beginning too. Like I was like, how do you even like do this? And so I started out with DMing brands on Instagram. And then also I found like brands like PR email just on Google. Like you literally look it up and it's like, say I wanted Sol de Janeiro, the perfume brand. I would look up Sol de Janeiro PR email. That doesn't pop up. I looked up Sol de Janeiro ambassador email, Sol de Janeiro partnership email. You kind of just find it and eventually it'll pop up. I think almost every single company that I've done that for, like an email will pop up. So, or they have like sign up for our ambassador program on their website, and I feel like that's a really good place to start too if you are like a smaller creator, just to sign up for those and see if you get accepted. You'll be surprised with how many brands do accept smaller creators. I feel like that's kind of like a stigma around it. It's like all these people are like, oh my gosh, I need this many followers to get a brand deal, but you don't. A lot of my brand deals in the beginning were very small, but also my following was small, but it was still like a way for me to honestly like get practice with like creating content for brands. Like I feel like especially as athletes, when it comes to NIL, a lot of us are like, here, buy this brush, use my code. And I noticed that like the more and more like people started to post about like NIL. And again, I was super fortunate for like that to be a time that I started posting. So I was like seeing a lot of that. And I was like, I don't like this. Like it looks so addy. I don't like it, and I don't want my Instagram to be like an ad page. I don't like that at all, and I'm sorry, I'll admit it, I hate those posts. So if you're posting those, love you, but you need to be a little bit more creative, because I'm sorry, but no one's going to click on your link in your bio using your code when you're just holding this brush like this. Like, here, go buy this brush. It's awesome on your Instagram. I'm sorry, but that's my tea for the day because I don't like it, and so many athletes are doing it, and I hate it. Hate it, I hate it, hate it. Be more creative, athletes. Come on. I feel like influencers and stuff do this so much better. They're so much more creative. I don't know why, but athletes always do this, and I hate it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Hate is a strong word, but I'm just like, why do athletes feel like this is convincing? Because it's not. It's literally not convincing at all. But I will admit, I did that in the beginning. I probably can go look on my Instagram. Let's go see. Let's type her in. I probably have some in the beginning that were like that, and let's see. Let me find it. But like, as I look back now, and I'm not saying this in a mean way at all, because like I said, I did this and I fell for that. Like, here, buy this from me. But I think it's just a learning experience. Like, I feel like like this one. This one's not like terrible, but it's definitely not my greatest. You probably can't see this one. Can you see it? I could probably just pop it up on the screen. But it's this one I did. This was going into my sophomore year, so September of 2021. So I like literally just became a sophomore at this point, and I got a brand deal with this company, and they turned all of my jerseys into like a quilt. And yes, it's like, okay, I'm on my bed with the quilt or whatever, but I did it with my selfie camera on my phone, propped it up on my dresser, and called it a day. I'm like, babe, you could have set up like a tripod, used the back camera so the picture is actually clear because it's literally blurry, and you could have came up with something a little bit more creative. But I think that's just a tip to kind of take in, because I feel like all of us get so like wrapped up in like the brand deals and stuff, like we kind of lose that like creative side when it comes to it. So I feel like, I know for me now, if I can't think of something other than the here, buy this brush, I will go on TikTok, I'll go on Pinterest, and I'll literally look up, say I have a deal with Wet Brush advertisement, and I go on their page, and usually a lot of like other influencers will pop up and say they don't for Wet Brush. So then I type in Tangle Teaser. That's the one I'm using for my episode coming up, that brush. And then I kind of see and I get inspiration of like, oh, that's a really good idea. Again, don't copy, but I feel like that's a way that you can get more like inspiration. And even if you don't look up like stuff for like a brush, you look up or like start saving people's ads that are clearly ads. Start saving them so you can go back and look at like those videos for inspiration on how they like mixed in that product to look more organic, because we can all do a better job with that, including myself. I still make ones that are very much ad-like. I'm not saying that mine are perfect and I like come up with the most creative things ever, but I've definitely got better over the years rather than here's the brush, please buy it. I feel like we can do a better job with that. Oh, a big one. When you start getting brand deals and people are sending you contracts, I would recommend having someone look it over. For athletes, we're lucky enough that a lot of our schools have I'm pretty sure everyone's school should have like a compliance office, and you should be turning in all your deals like to compliance. If you're not, you should, just so you don't get in trouble. But I definitely recommend having someone else, even if it's like your parent, to look over your contracts, because I know for me as a freshman in college, I was still 18 and I was getting brand deals sent to me, and I was just signing them and sending them back. I still do it to this day, I'm not gonna lie. I just send it back, especially now because I do work with an agency, so I've definitely like noticed myself doing it more, of not reading them all the way through, just signing and sending it back just to like kind of check it off my list. But you don't want to sign something and then you miss part of the contract and then you can get in trouble. For example, I had this happen over the summer. I had a brand deal with this softball company, and in the contract it mentioned that I had to do like an Instagram takeover within the first month of signing. And a year later, I'm going to like be done with this contract, and he's like, hey, you never did your Instagram takeover. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And he sent me the contract, and I'm like, well, that was supposed to be in the first month. Like, we're a whole year out now. Like, I'm about to be done. Like, we were doing this for a year. And thankfully enough, he like was like, okay, like just make one more TikTok instead. Like, so for that contract, I just did one TikTok per month, and then like any extra like Instagram reels or like stories and stuff were all kind of just like a bonus, which if people are paying you a good amount, definitely I have done like more than they're asking. Like for that one, I only had to do a TikTok, then I would just post it to reels, and I would also just put it on my story, because I was like, they're paying me, so it's like you don't want to be that person that's like low-key making them mad, which I'm like, I know you only asked for a TikTok, but it takes me 2 seconds to just put it on my reels, and also I get more engagement on Instagram too, like just by reusing content. So, but yeah, back to what I was saying, make sure you read your contracts and make sure all you need to know, because you don't want to get screwed. Like, that easily could have been something that was really bad, but luckily enough for me, he was like, you can just post like one more TikTok for an extra month and it's fine, whatever. So I was like, thank the Lord, because I was not trying to get in trouble for that. And people definitely can get in trouble, and I'm sure have gotten in like really big trouble with like deals and stuff. So make sure you're reading your contracts. I'm gonna go into a little bit on like the agency talk. I mentioned that I'm working with an agency. I'm working with Jexy. They're really amazing. Funny story, I actually started working with them because my boyfriend Austin, his aunt is like one of their talent managers, and for like the longest time she was like, let me be your manager, let me be your manager. And I was like, I don't know, like I'm scared. Like honestly, I didn't feel like I like deserve to have like a social media manager. I was like, I'm not like that big time. Like I don't know. And then eventually I was just like, let's do it. Like I'm just gonna do it and we can see how it goes. But yeah, it's just been amazing, and I just think it's funny that it's Austin's aunt, her name's Taylor, and she's just been so good. And it was just funny because like for the longest time I was like, I don't know. And she was like, come on. Like she would always like say stuff like how I needed to just sign with them, all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, let's just do it, because again, that was like my sign to take a next step. And I did, and it's been so good. So, but yeah, so I just want to tell that little story because I think it's funny on like how I got into that. And if you are looking for an agency, I definitely recommend, which obviously I've only ever worked with Jexy, so I only really know, like, I can only compare like my experience like to just like their company and how it works. But basically they do all of like the emailing for you, like honestly all of like the stuff I did in the beginning of like emailing brands, negotiating a price, like all that kind of stuff. Like they share my analytics with brands, they email them for me, they get me deals that I probably would have never got on my own. So it's been super beneficial. So if you are like an influencer or content creator, whatever you want to call yourself, because I know for me it's like when people are like, oh, she's an influencer, I'm like, no, I'm not. But kind of have to admit it at this point a little bit. But yeah, so if you are and you have been thinking of working with an agency, definitely reach out to me, because I would love to recommend you to Jexy. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it, because it definitely takes a lot off your plate as a creator, because I feel like that just allows you to have that like freedom of you literally just creating content that you want to create, and like not be stressed out on like that other side of it. So like you create your content, you do all that like aspect of it, and then they kind of do like the negotiating part for you. And I feel like that like really helped me start focusing on my content more, because now like when I wake up, I'm like, okay, I need to make my TikTok for the day, I need to do this, I need to do this, whatever I have to do like that day for my social media, I do it. And it's not like I don't have to set time to email brands now or read through the contracts of like what they're like wanting me to do. Like Taylor and Jexy like do that for me, and it's honestly like just been like so good for me. Especially in like as an athlete, because everyone's always asking me like, how do you have so much time for this? And it's definitely finding people that will help you through this process and make it easier for you and take a load off. And I definitely think an agency is super worth it if you're thinking about it. Another big question was, how often do you post? And for me, like compared to now versus when I started, are completely different. This goes back to not getting like super overwhelmed and burnt out in the beginning. I don't know exactly how much I posted in the beginning off the top of my head. I'd have to go like look back and kind of see. But I know I kind of had a goal for myself of posting once a week. And for me, a lot of my content I created was during spring season when we were playing, because it was easy. Like that weekend I would braid my hair 3 times. Friday, Saturday, Sunday we'd have a game, so I'd braid my hair and do some kind of game day hair. So like I had 3 posts for that week because of that. So it was just easy because I didn't really know how to like set time out of my day to like record on like other days. It was just very convenient to film and stuff on those days, since that was my niche, and it was just convenient because I was already braiding my hair. So I've definitely gotten better now at like time management and knowing what to film, when to film, whatever. And honestly, my biggest tip is literally just film anything, because you don't know what can be content. Like now I will literally video myself cleaning up my apartment and I'll post it and it gets views. So it's like anything can be content. You kind of have to think of like, what content do you watch throughout your day? And if you sit there and actually look at like what you're actually watching all the way through, you'll be very surprised. And if you think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, they just set their phone up on a tripod and videoed them vacuuming or whatever. And so yeah, just honestly start videoing. That's my thing. I feel like in the beginning I set too much pressure on myself of like, I have to do something really cool to video myself and post it. And now I literally just post anything. I posted a video a couple weeks ago of me washing my car. Like honestly, whatever you feel is fun and you want on your page, literally just video it. With that being said, you don't want just like junk on your page either. If you don't think anyone's gonna like actually like it, or like you personally wouldn't sit there and watch it, you probably shouldn't post it. Like if you wouldn't sit there and watch it through and like get something out of it, then I recommend probably just leaving that one in the drafts. But in the same breath, like I was saying, you can't overthink it and think you only have to make like this perfect video every single day for like it to be able to be posted, because that's not true. And that's what I've learned over the years. Like in the beginning, I was only doing those game day hairs because I was gonna do like some cool braid, and now I just do like a slick back and some kind of twist or something, and that's what I do. Like it doesn't have to be this big production, and I feel like that's kind of how I felt in the beginning. Like it has to be this crazy braid for me like to post it or for people to be interested. And you'll be very surprised on the videos that blow up. Sometimes the ones that like get the most traction and views and shares and stuff are the ones that literally take you like 5 seconds to film. And you're like, I spent 2 hours on this hairstyle and this one took me 5 seconds, and like this one did so much better than the one that took me 2 hours. So you never know what's gonna go viral, and yeah, you just gotta post. And again, this all goes back to what you want to share, what message you want to put out there, who you want your audience to be, and it all kind of just like boils down back to that, and just like what you find fun and like what things you enjoy filming, because that's the most important thing, of you having fun with it and not like posting just to post, because that's going to get super tiring and you're just not going to want to do it for very long if that's like your reasoning of like just to get a post out. So you honestly rather should just take a day off. If you can't think of anything to film, or if you're just tired and don't want to film, don't film. Because I promise, you just take the day off and you think of something to do tomorrow, I promise your content will be a lot better, because you just took the time off to think about it, think about what you wanted to post, rather than just like rushing through something just to get something out. Because I feel like, at least for me, like when I watch my videos, I can tell like, oh, that was like something I kind of rushed through, and I definitely could have thought of something more creative or filmed it from like a better angle or something like that. So definitely just, if you're getting tired of filming and you just don't know what to post, literally just take the day off and post tomorrow, because I promise it's not that bad if you miss a day of posting. So yeah, those were a couple questions of what you guys had about just social media and NIL, kind of stuff like that. So I'm just gonna finish this off with a little bit more about Tangle Talk. I know I mentioned in the beginning, we're gonna have a guest on each time. So if you guys have anyone in mind of who you want on the podcast, definitely comment on the episode, comment on my reels. All these are gonna be on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Instagram Shorts, or Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok. So literally anywhere you get your social media, this is going to be on it. So make sure you're commenting. If you want anyone specific on, I would love to reach out to them to get them on the podcast. And then also if you have anything like specific you want talked about, I know me and some guests already been talking about like different topics we want to talk about that I feel like are going to be super important. I feel like it's super easy for me to think of stuff for like younger athletes to talk about. But I don't want to get so wrapped up in just athletics. I really want to relate to like other people too, of like people who are, again, like starting content, or if you're going in high school for the first time, or if you're just like starting college, like not in athletics, like how to work through that. So don't be afraid to ask questions, because I'm open to anything. I'm getting not just athletes on this podcast, so we're getting all kinds of people with all kinds of stories and all kinds of different things that they're passionate about and that we feel that we need to talk about. So make sure you're commenting if you have any specific questions. So yeah, with all that being said, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and follow me on all of my socials. I will put my tags up on the screen. But yeah, I'll put everything on there. Make sure you guys are asking questions. And yeah, I can't wait to see you for episode 2. See ya.